Hi, Tasha Blasi here, your BFF. I am at my sister's house in California, so if you hear multiple dogs or farm animals, it's because she basically lives on a farm. Anyway, um, she doesn't live on a farm, but she has a ton of animals, and they're all around me. Anyway, I wanted to come to you today to share with you honestly, one of my best hacks for determining what went wrong with an egg retrieval. It's always the woman's fault. It's not always the woman's fault, though. So I wanted to give you kind of my choose your own adventure, step-by-step thought process on how I determine what probably went wrong in the process. Just to warn you, of course, every client that I take on, my advice, my recommendations have to be customized once I take a deep dive into their story. But this is just kind of broad strokes overview, top line. Okay, got it? Promise me you're not gonna think that this is how it all has to go no matter what. Okay, deal? So today I was talking to somebody on the phone, her and her husband, and she was saying how she had a lot of eggs come out, right? A lot of them were mature, and got fertilized, and then basically no blast at the end. I was telling her, from what I see, and I dug into some of my data, I don't think that the clinic was right for her. I think she needed a different clinic that dealt with her issue specifically. And she said to me, but I love my doctor, and he's really good. And I explained to her, what I'm seeing is not the doctor. Okay, and I don't think that people realize not only is there the doctor, but what about the people behind the curtain? There's the embryologist, and then there's also the lab. Those almost count as two other people. So what I explained to her was, actually the doctor looks like he did a great job. And how I'm able to tell that is because the amount of follicles was very similar to the amount of mature eggs that came out that were able to be fertilized. So that tells me that the doctor did a great job, right? Good job, doctor. We love you. Rock on. Then how do you get to no blasts? First of all, it could have been her. I don't know. There's not enough of a pattern, and she hasn't I haven't molded her yet. I don't mold people, you know what I mean? But what she wasn't thinking about, I go, it's not the doctor. I go, what about the embryologists? We don't know who that was. We don't know if they're good embryologists, if they're embryologists in training, or if they're just not very talented. And let's say that the embryologist is the best of the best, well-known, wonderful. The embryologist has to work in a lab that has a ton of variables. Nobody thinks about this until now. When I'm talking to people and I hear a lot, actually it's more from partners that are male. I don't know why, but they're always like, all labs are the same. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard, okay? Because not only is there the human element of who's working in the lab, but there's also the actual lab, the equipment, the technology, the medium that they grow the embryos in, the temperature that they house them in. There's also a variable of how they look at the embryos. Some people have to take the embryos out, open them up in air, and look at them. They don't probably just do this, but I'm giving you an idea. While others able to have equipment that doesn't have to touch where, the embryo and the, let's call it petri dish that it's in, and can look at it without touching it, and not exposing it to the air. There's so many variables. The food, the medium that the embryo is growing in, that varies by lab. So every lab has their secret sauce. Not only do they have their heroes that are the embryologists, and of course all stages of those, but there are so many variables in the lab, and I am able to, once I take a deep dive into the client, I am able to see where the doctor did a good job or not. Now you know how to determine that as well. And then where the lab potentially did a good job or not. Now, just because you had a lot of eggs that led to no blasts does not necessarily mean that the lab did a bad job, but you will never hear them blame themselves. So I want you to know that it probably isn't you, and it might be the lab. Okay, don't always go with what they say of, up, you're old. Up, it must be, the quality of the blast. That's bullshit. Okay, that's not true. And that's not always the case, because I've taken people out of labs, placed them in other labs, and they miraculously have a lot of healthy embryos. But unfortunately, think about it. If a doctor was like, "Oh yeah, the guy that was the guy that was handling your embryos, he's in training, so as he was like sucking them up, he like really messed it up. So we probably killed off your embryo." You're never going to hear that. Or yeah, our technology hasn't been updated for like 15 years. So honestly, the lab across the street is much better with housing embryos than ours. Never going to hear that. But these are all facts, and these are all variables, all right? So now you know when the doctor did the good job, potentially when the lab did a good job or not. But the most important thing is always doubt that it's you first, okay? And always assume that there are other things that can be done at the lab to help you get to blast. And of course, if you ever wonder what it is, call us up. And on the first strategy session, we give you red flags that we see in your journey, okay? So anyway, let me know how I can help you, because it's not always you prolonging your fertility journey, it's them, all right? Sending you so much love to you and your embryos and your family to be. I will talk to you soon.